In the middle of the night, deep underground, a telephone began to ring. No one in the room was speaking. Everyone was looking at the same screen. If the warning on that screen was true, the world had already stepped onto a path it might never return from. If the warning was false, one rushed answer could make it real. The phone rang again. Somewhere above them, commanders were waiting. "Do you confirm?" The Soviet officer in the center of the room looked at the screen, then at the phone, then back at the screen. His job was not to question the system. His job was to follow protocol. But that night, protocol was asking him to do something very simple. Answer now. And before he answered, one small detail stopped him. A detail so small that everyone else could have missed it. But if he was wrong, there might not be time to correct it. This happened on September 26, 1983, inside a secret Soviet early warning center near Moscow. The officer on duty was named Stanislav Petrov. He was not there to become a hero. He was not expecting history to enter the room. He was a tired Soviet officer sitting through another long night shift. The room had no windows, only cold walls, dim light, and the glow of machines watching the sky. Outside, the world was sleeping. Inside, the system was waiting for the end of the world. I remember that room as a place without comfort, not because it was dark, not because it was cold, but because everything inside it was built for one question. Has the enemy launched? That was the world in 1983. The Cold War had reached one of its most dangerous moments. The United States and the Soviet Union did not trust each other. Both sides had missiles. Both sides had warning systems. Both sides feared that the other might strike first. Earlier that year, political tension had grown sharper. Words became threats. Exercises looked like preparations. Every signal mattered. Every mistake looked dangerous. And in a world like that, a false alarm was not just a technical failure. A false alarm could become a real war. Petrov knew this. He knew what his screen meant. If the system detected a nuclear launch, the report had to move quickly, from his room to higher command, from higher command to the people who could order a response. The chain was designed for speed. It was not designed for doubt. Then the warning appeared. The system reported that a missile had been launched from the United States. One missile, heading toward the Soviet Union. For a moment, the room changed. The machines continued working. The lights continued blinking. But the people inside stopped moving. Everyone understood what that warning could mean. Petrov looked at the screen. He had seconds to think, not hours. Not enough time to investigate. Not enough time to be certain. Only enough time to decide what kind of uncertainty he was willing to live with. Protocol told him to report the warning as an attack. But something did not feel right. One missile. Why only one? If the United States were truly launching a first nuclear strike, why would it begin with a single missile? A real first strike would likely be massive, overwhelming, designed to destroy command centers before a response could be launched. One missile did not fit that logic. It looked strange, too strange, and that strange detail stayed in Petrov's mind. The phone kept ringing. The operators waited. The system insisted, but the ground radars had not confirmed the launch. That did not prove the warning was false. It only meant the truth had not arrived yet, and this was the worst part. If the missile was real, the radar might see it too late. If the warning was false, reporting it as real could push the world closer to disaster. Petrov was trapped between two fears. Act too quickly and he might help start a war. Wait too long and he might fail to warn his country. There was no safe choice. Then the screen changed again. Another launch, then another, then another. The warning grew stronger. The system was now reporting multiple missiles. The room became heavier. One missile could be a mistake, but several missiles were harder to ignore. The computer was not whispering anymore. It was shouting, "Attack, attack, attack." Every second made Petrov's doubt more dangerous, because now the question had changed. It was no longer this: could the system be wrong? It was this: could the system be wrong 5 times? The men around him looked for certainty. The machines offered certainty. The screen gave an answer. But Petrov saw what the machine could not see. The pattern still did not make sense. If this was the beginning of nuclear war, why were there only a few missiles? Why no wider strike? Why no confirmation from ground radar? Why did the most important warning of his life feel incomplete? He did not have proof. He had judgment, and judgment is a frightening thing when millions of lives may depend on it. I imagine his hand near the phone. Not dramatic, not heroic, just human. A man in a chair, in a room built by people who believed machines could remove hesitation. But hesitation was exactly what the moment needed. Petrov made his choice. He did not confirm the warning as a real attack. He reported it as a likely false alarm. Not because he knew. He did not know. That is what makes the moment so heavy. He chose without certainty, and after that, there was nothing left to do but wait. The screen still glowed. The phone lines were still active. The other officers were still watching. Somewhere above that bunker, the world had no idea how close one room had come to changing everything. Petrov waited for confirmation. If the missiles were real, there would soon be signs. Radar detection, impact warnings, orders, panic, something. A minute passed, then another. Nothing happened. The radar did not confirm the attack. No explosions were reported. No wave of incoming missiles appeared. The warning began to lose its power. The machines had been wrong. Later, investigators found the cause. The Soviet satellite system had mistaken sunlight reflecting off clouds for missile launches. A rare technical error. A reflection in the sky. A false signal. That was all it took. The world did not end that night. But inside that room, it was not a clean victory. No one suddenly became a legend. No music played. No one walked into the bunker to say, "You saved the world." What came next was quieter and colder. Petrov had gone against the expected procedure. He had trusted his judgment over the system. Military systems do not like that. Even when a person is right, the system still wants to know why he did not follow the rules perfectly. There were questions, reports, investigations. Why did he not immediately treat the warning as real? Why was the incident not documented exactly as required? Why had one man's doubt interrupted the chain? On paper, these were normal questions, but paper does not understand fear. Paper does not hear the phone ringing. Paper does not sit in a room where the wrong word could travel upward faster than truth. The incident remained secret for years. Petrov did not become famous the next morning. He did not stand before crowds. He did not build his life around the title of hero. For a long time, most people never knew his name. And maybe that is what makes the story feel real. Because many of history's most important moments do not look important when they happen. They look like tired people making difficult choices in rooms no one will ever see. Years later, when the story became known, people began calling Petrov the man who saved the world. But he did not speak about himself that way. When asked about that night, he did not describe himself as fearless. He did not pretend he had been certain. He admitted he was afraid. That answer matters, because fear was not the enemy in that room. Blind obedience was. The machine gave him a warning. The protocol gave him a direction. The pressure told him to hurry. But fear made him understand the weight of being wrong. And because he understood that weight, he stopped long enough to ask the question the system could not ask. What if this is a mistake? That question did not sound heroic. It sounded like doubt. But sometimes doubt is the last human thing left between a machine and a disaster. Stanislav Petrov lived quietly after that. The world moved on. The Cold War continued. New headlines came, new fears replaced old ones, and the night of September 26, 1983, almost disappeared into classified files and forgotten reports. Petrov himself became an ordinary man again, or at least as ordinary as a man can be after sitting in a room where the end of the world appeared on a screen. He died in 2017. His death did not immediately fill the world's front pages. Most people were busy with their own lives. Cities woke up. Lights turned on in apartment windows. Trains moved. Children went to school. People argued, worked, laughed, and slept. The world continued in the quiet way it always does. And maybe that is the point. Some moments do not announce themselves. Some people do not ask to be remembered. Some decisions are made so quietly that history almost misses them. There was a screen. There was a warning. There was a phone that would not stop ringing. There was a system demanding an answer. And there was one man who did not rush to give it. He looked at the warning. He looked at the logic. He looked at the silence from the radar. And for a few dangerous minutes, he allowed doubt to exist. That doubt did not make him weak. It made him human. History often remembers the loudest moments, the speeches, the explosions, the victories, the disasters. But sometimes the most important moment is the one that never happens. The missile that was not there. The order that was not given. The war that did not begin. On that night, a machine cried out. A system demanded speed. A room waited for one man's voice. And Stanislav Petrov paused, not because he knew the future, not because he was certain, but because something did not feel right. And sometimes, in the middle of history, that is all a human being has. A question, a pause, and the courage not to pretend he knows more than he does. That is why this story still matters, not because one man controlled the fate of the world alone, but because for a few minutes the world depended on something fragile, human judgment. And in that underground room, while the machines were certain, one man was not. So he waited, and the night passed. But history has many rooms like this, rooms without witnesses, names almost erased, decisions that never made it into the headlines. If you ever feel that the past still has unfinished stories, then stay close, because somewhere in the dark, another forgotten moment is waiting to be remembered.